All right, I should be coming back on. When I come back on, I need you guys to tell me where I came off. All right. I think I'm back. Am I back? All right. All right. So apparently I dropped off with the guy under the corner. Good. Okay. So yeah, I was just getting that to that, Alexandra. So the guy underneath the corner, he has his reflection down here, and then the intensity of the reflection falls off as you get closer, as it falls away, or the distance increases. Again, ambient light. And then if you want, you can include the fact that you're looking at the underside of his umbrella. So that's all going to be dark underneath that umbrella because it's just so little light. All right. But the thing is, over here on this side of the man, you have this lady, and her reflection is a little bit different because she has the huge building behind her, and the huge building does become a giant reflection. So, and that comes to straight down because you're following the paths, the rays. Everything comes straight down, just like in the evening shots of the reflections. So I'm going to have to actually free up my transparencies. I'm just doing the sidewalk here. The transition to the street is going to be a little bit complicated, but basically you need a value change to indicate that the street is darker underneath, but you need to ultimately it needs to be a similar value to the sidewalk, because what you're really seeing is the reflection of either the sky or the building. All right, so what happens here is the reflection of the building is carried through down here, and then you start looking for little reflections of highlights off of these figures, off of the edges. Remember, we're having fun with the fact that everything has a sheen to it, especially anything that's wet. In fact, your umbrellas could use a little bit to indicate, oops, not like that, that they're wet and they're capturing the light from the sky. This one's going to be a little, these umbrellas underneath the overhang are going to be a little bit different because of the fact that there's only so much light that hits them. But again, it's just like when we were looking at this one, where we had the green light all the way over here from over here. Let's turn that back off. Well, over here, all of these umbrellas have an edge facing the open sky away from the building, and they will be collecting light there. So you want to add a shine to them. Okay, but now let's go back over here. So the building is eclipsing the light from behind it, and we're seeing a reflection of the building in all the rainy water. And you just got to find little ways of adding little squigglies in there to indicate that, you know, that it's wet. And you especially do that where the reflections are. So where her dress is a little bit darker, and then where it's a little bit lighter, and then again the umbrella at the top. We'll grab a little bit darker color. Careful of how dark these umbrellas are. I mean, even though the umbrellas may be black, these look really dark in a way that doesn't look realistic. Okay, so you see how already now we're improving the scene with a bunch of little squigglies. I think you're gonna have fun once you start realizing that this is the basic approach. Just get squigglies that come down, and it makes the ground wet. And then on top of all that, oh, this is the cheapest trick in the book, but one of the best ones. You just draw little circles on the ground to indicate where rain might have fallen. Oops. You might want to change the color of them. And the best part about that is you can use the dark color in the light area, but then you can use a light color in the dark area. And you can even have it overlap the reflections. Alright, you see how that section looks really wet? Hold on a second, I'm trying to get the link to... Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. With 2 people watching me. Yay. Now it'll be 3. Technical difficulties. Oh well. I'm just going to work on this a little bit while Alexander finds her way back online. More squigglies. Let's get the reflection of the building in there. We got this marquee. There you go. I remember names of things. Alright, so going back to where we were before, what you have to do is all the light from the sky is shining down on this sidewalk with the exception of where this man is blocking it, and so we drew the squigglies here. That's pretty much where you left off. The thing is, over here it gets tricky because the building is blocking the sky, and we see a reflection of the sky in the ground. So everything down here is that sort of middle gray value. And then up here we have the marquee, and so depending on the angle, if you want to see that color down there, you can. But the trick is you pick up the colors. Let's zoom out so we don't have the pixelization. You pick up all the colors from your figures, and they just become squigglies that come straight down from your figures. And then I explained it as the cheapest trick in the book, but you use little circles in the ground, and it looks like raindrops that have fallen from the sky. It made little puddles, and I mean, try to figure out a way to use it sparingly so it doesn't look so esoteric, or so esoteric it looks like polka dots on the ground, or it looks like somebody painted something on the ground as a mural. And a few concentric circles is always a big help. But the neat thing about that trick, let's add that over there, is that you can use the dark on the light, but then you can also use the light on the dark. Oops, I had a bird there. And you can basically put them everywhere throughout the image. And especially on top of reflections is really good, because then it makes it flattens out the reflection down on the ground, as opposed to being like a mirror image that's actually receding underneath the ground. Okay. Another thing I mentioned is that these umbrellas, they're capturing light from the sky where the building isn't interfering with it, and it looks just like here, where this car was capturing the green from all the way over here. Oops. The same thing is happening here, where these wet umbrellas are going to capture a reflection of the sky, of the white sky, over to the side. Okay. Yeah, so that's what you're looking for. Another thing, these cars' headlights are going to be on. I'm using, alright, you know what, I won't, I'll use, I'll stay within the bluish space that we have. These headlights are going to be on. They're going to be very bright, and you're going to see a bunch of little raindrops right in front of them. Come on, computer, keep up with me. Ah. Obviously having trouble with that. All right. So a little bit of a dot in the, come on. And of course, don't forget the spread. And then the other thing you're going to see, of course, is the squiggly is coming down from it. Same here. And then do the dot again. Come on, computer. Don't do that to me. I shouldn't be so abusive to my computer, though. It's a good computer. It's put up with me for a lot of years. Alright. So now we have one half of the people that are in water and the other half not. And again, another thing I was mentioning earlier is the fact that this roadway is also reflecting the sky. So it's not going to be quite as bright as the sidewalk, but it needs to be nearly as bright. Let's say 70%. And the funny thing about that is the markings on the road are going to be really hard to see, to the extent that instead of actually seeing painted markings on the road, sometimes you actually paint the beveled edge of the paint. And that's all people get when they're driving because the reflection is just so harsh. Oops, I totally obliterated my raindrops there. That's not cool. And then don't forget, no matter how dark the car is, it's still reflecting the sky, so you have to give it. You have to be smart about your reflections where you see the sky on the vehicle. At least these hoods are very stylized in a way where you that will read easier than these flat rows where it's like, okay, half the sky, whatnot. Okay. All right. Can't really think of anything else. Just that's what you're dealing with. So much better. Okay. All right. So have fun with that. I mean, you probably missed it because the stream cut out, but you'll have fun painting those squigglies going down the image. It's a fucking riot. Ah, they're fun. Raindrops. Well, since raindrops can be on another layer, I'm not gonna. Let's not worry about those right now. Okay. I mean, you have raindrops that are kind of functional, and if there's a way to improve them, let's wait until you render out your scene, and then what I can tell you about raindrops will involve where your light sources are, because raindrops become a lot more visible in paths of light, like when we were talking with the headlights. You just have to take that approach to everywhere else in the scene. Oh, and don't forget splashes of water in the road coming off the tires. Well, I mean, at least your raindrops are on a separate layer, so you can always just turn them off, or if the angle's wrong, you can just rotate them. Right now, these raindrops indicate wind, and you might not want to do that if everybody has umbrellas and they're not struggling with the umbrellas. So you want to make them you want the raindrops to come straight down. Any other questions? Okay, the roof is just like the cars, where depending on the material, some roofs have a gravelly top that break up the reflection, so you don't see the reflection as strongly. especially if they have any type of loose sediment, which isn't really that common. Um, but you still have to keep in mind it's wet and it's reflecting the sky, so it needs to be a little bit lighter. And then the roof is definitely going to be a spot where the raindrop trick is also going to help there as well. Right. So yeah, that's what I thought you were rendering. Okay, so with the asphalt gravel top, what you get then is you're going to get a reflection of the inside wall. You're actually going to see white because of the wall, and then the sky behind it is going to lighten it up a little bit too. And but because of the gravel, you're going to see little squigglies that block. We don't need red. You're going to see little squigglies where just little divots in the gravel that actually block the reflection. So it'll be a little bit more high. I don't know. I picked it up somewhere. It's been a long 20 years of working with Photoshop. I think that my markings here are probably a little bit dark. Let's go ahead and brush them down a little bit. But if you can fill in, and then the other thing to keep in mind is when you do this texture, it has to recede in perspective too. So as the lines go farther back, the squigglies get closer together, and then as they come to you, they start spreading out more. Oh, well, you know what? I hadn't noticed that, and in a children's book, I just thought it just looked charming and cute. They're off a little bit, but not by a lot. I'm more concerned by this one line here. This one line here actually, this line is your biggest problem. That needs to go straight up. It looks a little warped. But then also, all these lines, God, let's see. I mean, I would just make this a little bit more of an isometric perspective where you, instead of worrying about these points coming to, all these lines coming to a point, just make them all parallel. So let me get another line or another layer here. Use a blue guideline. Uh, green. All right, just making sure that it came back. Okay, so the building's supposed to look warped. I think, okay, so real quick, the biggest question is it warped because of age or is it warped on purpose because of stylization? Because if it's warped on purpose because of stylization, I think we need to see more elements of it, especially in the facade where it looks intentional or it's showcased as something that's intentional. If it's a question of age, then the warping needs to look like something that would happen through age. That definitely is a function of gravity. So a lot of sagging horizontals, and then as verticals are leaning in any direction, I would kind of guess it would lean in as opposed to out, or else see a little crack there. Okay, if it's on purpose, then it would be something that was showcased in the facade. So I'd explore shapes like that in something that's seen in front. Well, you can do if you have to maintain continuity between the two, there you'd only have to add a very few shapes to that and very few shapes here. Basically, just to the outside edges. Oops, sorry, jumping around. Just add shapes to the outside edges, and then maybe cut the top. Or if you don't want to cut the top, don't cut the top. Just two flanges or whatever. Why would it be slight? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's like telling what's his face to Gary to do it slight. Yeah, I mean, I really like the architecture that you have in this building right now. If you know you want to make it warped and you know that it's supposed to be on purpose and you know that it's supposed to make it look like an art building, then okay, you need to do that. But if you're just gonna change one supporting structure in the very back, it's not gonna read right. Yeah, so I would say just dump the warpiness and just make it a standard building. Because this architecture in the front is actually phenomenal. I mean, I look at that and I immediately think it's an art building or an art, or I mean, with the theater underneath it's unmistakable. I can see all the effort that's been put in there. It looks really beautiful. Oh, by the way, one other thing. This shadow here needs to go. Unless this is like a crevice that goes backwards. This shadow needs to go because, again, we have the ambient light from the sky lighting everything up. All right. I think that's good enough for now. Um, Good luck with it. Let me know how it goes. I can't wait to see what you do with this. Yeah, a crevice. I like the idea of it being a crevice, but make it more elaborate as a crevice and actually have this horizontal in front. What you do, light on the horizontal in front, and then the crevice is black in the back, and you know that it's on purpose. And then make sure you take advantage of your squigglies to reach in behind there. Uh, all right. Bye for now.